Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Bad Boys, Ride or Die, starring Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, Vanessa Hudgens, Alexander Ludwig, Paola Nunez, Eric Dane, Johan Griffith, Jacob Scipio, Melanie Liberd, Tasha Smith, Rhea Seahorn, Tiffany Haddish, and Joe Pantoliano, directed by Adil Mbalil, the Ms. Marvel, and the Bad Boys for Life directors. Now, before I get into this, people are kind of boycotting this movie because of Will Smith, because of that infamous slap that he gave to Chris Rock for telling a dumb joke about bald heading wife of his, Jada Pickett Smith. And I'm gonna just say now, despite that relationship seems toxic, but the bottom line is, I'm gonna blame Chris Rock for that. I don't care what people say to me because, honestly, the motherfucker had it coming for the way he talked about bald-headed people like that and calling them G.I. Jane 2 or whatever. That kind of offended me, honestly. And that's the kind of shit that I think he deserved to get slapped for. And I'm going to be brutally honest, I never was a Chris Rock fan because he's never made a good movie that I liked him in. He's never made a movie I liked, nor did I like him in. None of it. And I'm starting to boycott the guy now for that reason alone. But it's not to say that Will Smith, what he did was right, because it wasn't. But the whole thing was just, yeah, people have their opinions on it, but I'm blaming Chris Rock for that. I don't care what the fuck people say to me. It's just my opinion. So I have seen this movie twice, and let's see how this goes with the movie review. Let's get into it. We open with Mike Lowry, returned by Will Smith, driving too fast, too furious because his partner Marcus Burnett, returned by Martin Lawrence, doesn't get dressed in time as Marcus asks to stop by a convenience store to get a ginger ale for only 90 seconds. And when Marcus grabs not just a ginger ale but a bag of Skittles and a hot dog, the convenience store clerk gets robbed, and Mike comes in and shoots the robber in the leg, and Marcus says to the clerk, "Call 911." And the chemistry between Will Smith and Martin Lawrence is great as they're entertaining together. But this isn't really one of Will Smith's best performances because I haven't been entertained by the guy, well, maybe with an exception of King Richard and that remake of Aladdin, since the 90s, to be perfectly honest. Mike gets married to a woman named Christine, played by Melanie Liberd, or Liberd, something like that. I forget if I said that wrong. Please forgive me. And who are also at the wedding? Marcus, Kelly, returned by Vanessa Hudgens, who was in the last film, as well as Dorn, returned by Alexander Ludwig. Rita, returned by Paola Nunez, Rita's boyfriend. But we have a new character of Rita's boyfriend, aka a district attorney and upcoming mayor of Miami, Lockwood, played by Mr. Fantastic himself, Johan Griffith. Captain Howard's daughter, Judy, played by Rhea Seahorn, and her daughter, Callie. And they celebrate Mike and Christine until Marcus passes out and ends up at the hospital and sees in a vision Captain Conrad Howard, returned by Joe Pantoliano, telling Marcus it's not his time. And he wakes up at the hospital and takes the elevator to the roof while in a hospital gown, and his ass is hanging out as he stands on the edge. And I had fun at the wedding scene, and I liked the returning characters as well as a few of the new ones being introduced in this movie, as they look like they're having a fun time together. We get introduced to the movie's bad guy named James McGrath, and I'm going to just call him McGrath for the rest of the show because that's what IMDb's telling me to do. Played by Eric Dane, who is Multiple Man in X-Men 3, as he kills someone in the police department, and as a villain, he's just as menacing as Armando from the third movie, who will also be in this movie, and is returned by Jacob Scipio, and I like seeing him back in his arc later in the film. Mike drives Marcus home, and Marcus reunites with Teresa, not played by the same actress, but a different actress, Tasha Smith, as well as his daughter Megan and her husband Reggie, and his grandkids, as Mike reunites with Christine and Megan, and Teresa throws Marcus' snacks in the trash can. And Mike and Christine live in a beautiful big house together, and when he sleeps, he dreams of how violent his son Armando is, and he wakes up seeing Captain Howard did something dirty on the TV, and they catch Rita and Lockwood are in a press conference with Judy, and and the head of the FBI, Grice. And Mike and Marcus visit Armando to identify who the subject is, who happens to be McGrath. But the only issue is he doesn't know his name. But his face. And after McGrath tries to hack Captain Howard's computer, and it sends a message to Mike and Marcus saying, "Don't trust anybody." And the next day comes, and Marcus crosses the street illegally. And we get a cameo from Michael fucking Bay. And this is a fine plot, as it works for a fourth part, as this is entertaining so far, but I don't like seeing Michael fucking Bay as a cameo, and I don't support his movies after 13 hours in Transformers The Last Night. If you saw that review of Transformers The Last Night, you know why. Mike and Marcus visit at an art gallery where Fletcher from the first two movies points out a clue for them until one of McGrath's people shoots Fletcher dead, like Marcus did it, and a shootout begins while Marcus eats and drinks some sugar, despite the doctor told him not to eat nor drink sugar no more. But he does it in this scene as he keeps saying he can't die, which I thought was bullshit, because anybody could die at this point. And they go after McGrath's people, and Mike has some kind of panic attack. And Marcus saves his life like Mike did in the first film, and they spin the camera in slow motion like they did in the first movie. And this is a better shot. This was better shot than anything Michael fucking Bay did. But this sequence is pretty loud. Like, goddamn, like a goddamn Michael Bay film. Kelly sees a QR code that leads to Captain Howard's video where he tried to get Ruiz and Sanchez from the first film, and brings up some things that happened in Bad Boys 2 back in 2003, and says Mike and Marcus are his only hope, and Armando is killed while working out in jail, but Armando beats their asses up, and Mike asks Rita and Lockwood to have Armando look and identify McGrath. And from frame one, I'm just going to say it now, Lockwood is one of the villains in this movie, is my prediction. Because how often does Johan Griffith play a villainous character, as that felt a little predictable? Like San Andreas, for example. He played a terrible character in that film, too, in that terrible film. McGrath is on the helicopter where Mike, Marcus, and Armando are on, and gets one of his bad guys, let me rephrase that, to threaten the pilot with McGrath, and they crash land the helicopter as McGrath escapes, and this piece of action is well done, I guess? No, that's not the right word, as is fine, but the action sequences throughout the movie was loud to the point I'm going with it, as I'm having an entertaining time with it at this point. Like, it's one of those movies that you have to turn off your brain. They land as Armando says they need to split up, while Mike says they stay together, which is a good idea of Mike, while Armando suggests to lose their cell phones, and they throw them in the river, as Armando has a good idea then too. Meanwhile, Rita arrives with the FBI along with Judy, as Mike and Marcus become fugitives, along with Armando, and we move on to them camping out, and Marcus expressing love to Mike and Armando, while Armando says they're terrible fucking fugitives, which is true because they've never been fugitives before. And the next day comes, and a couple of racist motherfuckers point a gun at Mike and Marcus because they steal some clothes that they need to change into, and Armando steals the truck while distracting the racists, and they escape. And this is entertaining, but at the same time kind of dumb, while they sing some Reba McEntire songs of Bad Boys, which I didn't know that song existed until I found out yesterday. Mike, Marcus, and Armando go to Tabitha, played by Tiffany Haddish, in a brief role in her club, as they ask for guns, phones, and clothes, and she wants money as she calls out the bounty hunters, and for Mike to lick her private area. I'm not going to say where because that's not appropriate, although to be fair, it is an R-rated movie, so I'm going to just say this. She wants him to lick her pussy. Excuse my French. They take Mike and Marcus and Armando outside until Manny from the last movie, where he used a hammer on his ass, coming in and having a shootout. And that was a fun bit of action as Mike and Marcus and Armando escape. But Tiffany Haddish annoys the hell out of me at times, and this movie tells me why. Mike, Marcus, and Armando go to the houseboat of Dorn and they see he and Kelly are in a relationship as Armando comes in and they ask for help. And Dorn helps out as Kelly reluctantly because of Armando, and they work with Armando to identify McGrath as he does find him in the photo. And some of Kelly and Dorn being in a relationship and finding McGrath, or it's McGrath, I'm sorry, forgive me, it's McGrath, as was pretty convenient. And there were times the movie made convenient choices. Mike calls Rita and tells her they got proof Captain Howard isn't as corrupted as the TV says. And McGrath gets guys to go after Mike and Marcus's family, while Reggie kills every single motherfucking last one of them, as this guy is a badass, and they accept him at this point. At this point, of the as part of the family, because remember, he was the kid that was picked on in the second film, and he was in the military, as we learned that from the third film. And Callie from the wedding comes to Christine, and they get captured by the bad guys along with McGrath. And Mike figures out Lockwood is planning something with McGrath while Rita is with him, and Lockwood becomes a Two-Face while beating up Rita. And Dorn and Kelly pick them up and take her to Mike and Marcus. And Mike makes a speech to their team of good guys, let's call them. And the reveals were a tad bit predictable. And the hostages captured is a cliche in general. Mike calls McGrath as the voice of Lockwood. And we learned a little backstory of McGrath about how he lost a finger. And Mike and Marcus sing the theme song before they go into action. And I was singing along with it at this point. And they go to Cuba to deliver Lockwood to McGrath as they go to a theme park. Excuse me. I meant a theme park where the alligator named Duke is at. And they start having a shootout of a climax where Mike has another panic attack. And how inconvenient of Mike to have a panic attack. And the shootout starts with a bang, but we'll see if it ends with the bang. Mike visions Captain Howard until Marcus slaps him in the face, and they go after McGrath and try to catch Christine and Callie as some drones by Dorn come in. And I did find hilarious when they enter the building, Marcus says, "That's some redneck Jurassic Park right there," which really made me laugh. And they circle around shooting every bad guy dead, and I'm kind of glad I didn't see this on IMAX, because that could have given me a headache. And we get a point of view shot of, I'm thinking we are in a video game as we're focusing on Will Smith's arms, or Mike's, let's say, because it seems like it. McGrath sort of escapes with Christine while Lockwood tries to get back in their helicopter, but Rita shoots it down, and Mike and Marcus get into the water where Duke, the alligator, is at, and Marcus tries to talk some sense into the alligator, but bites Marcus's arm. Not off, but just bites it. While Armando saves Callie's life by killing her kidnappers, and Armando is almost down, but Callie decides to save his life while Mike goes after McGrath, and Christine as Lockwood shoots at Dorn and Kelly, keeping him conscious, and Rita kills Lockwood by kicking his ass to let Duke eat him. And Marcus gets caught by McGrath, and Mike catches up with him and shoots Marcus again, like in the second movie. And Armando and Callie get to safety until Judy comes at Armando with a gun. Mike comes in and saves Armando and puts him on a boat, and Judy decides to let him go as Mike puts him on a boat, like I said. And Mike and Marcus are saved from being fugitives, excuse me. And we end on a public park on a grill as everyone is having a barbecue with each other, and Mike and Marcus try to fight over who gets to barbecue some chicken, and Reggie fights them both with a stern face, and he scared the hell out of Mike and Marcus. But when he gets his way, he smiles like he's the man in the family, and the climax was funny, action-packed, and ends with a bang. But is it as good as the first three? Well, let's find out in a rating, shall we? I'll give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence have great chemistry, and I really like being back with these characters, but this is not as good as Bad Boys 1 and 3, but in my opinion, but it's better than the second film, and it's still entertaining me throughout the movie, despite there's a bit of problems for sure, and the shots are better than anything Michael Bay has done in general. The action was a hell of a lot of fun, as the shots did remind me of the first movie for good reasons. And there were times the movie was pretty funny, like I said, and I was laughing at times throughout the movie, and it was a good time. This is a good, fun, entertaining time at the movies, despite this isn't as good as 1 and 3, like I said, but definitely much better than 2. And this is a recommendation for a fun, action packed, good summer time at the movies, as it worked quite well. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for coming back to this Bad Boys retrospective. I'm sorry I forgot to bring up Welcome Back to that at the beginning, but it is Welcome Back. And until then, Bad Boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?